James Comey is set to testify today behind closed doors.
How is it that Mr. Comey presided over one of the most inept FBI organizations in the history of the FBI?
President Trump is expected to announce Nikki Haley's replacement at any moment.
Heather Nauert is set to become the highest profile Trump nominee to face a Senate confirmation hearing since Brett Kavanaugh.
The debate surrounding birthright citizenship reigniting.
19-year-old Honduran Mariuri Hernandez crossed over the border illegally and the next day gave birth.
Firefighters standing on their truck to salute the president, and these kids spotted with a sign saying, look at that, thank you 41.
Silent night no longer. A police officer unveiling his hidden talent and bringing down the house.
All is bright.
2 months ago, when my wife and I came out with the cookbook, here at Fox News, we did this contest, opening it up, because the cookbook is all about our favorite, the foods that make us happy. We had a nationwide contest. Thousands of people entered, and today you will meet the first winner. This is a woman who became an American citizen, and every time she has this cake, it makes her happy. And her story is amazing, and she will be joining us live this hour.
To make the cake for us.
To make the cake, and
So
we will
there will be
take the
cake.
cake.
So how many winners do we have?
We have 3 winners. We're going to have a winner this week where they come into the studio, another next week, and then 2 weeks from yesterday.
You're going to their house?
I'm going to their house to make them breakfast, just as I did the day that they launched the Happy Cookbook, which is, as you know, a great stocking
Does
stuffer.
everyone who won know that they won? Or are you revealing another one next
You will
week?
discover a nugget of that information within the hour.
Quite the tease.
I like that.
Quite the tease.
So anyway.
Meanwhile, that's going to be great. I look forward to meeting them. They might be even here already. Let's talk about Robert Mueller and what's going on, because the president's tweeting about it, because the Mueller probe has 2 people getting some very important documents today and reveals it is going to be Michael Cohen as well as Paul Manafort. And here's what the president just tweeted.
He said Robert Mueller and Leakin lion James Comey are best friends. Just one of many Mueller conflicts of interest. And by the way, wasn't the woman in charge of prosecuting Jerome Corsi, who I do not know, in charge of legal at the corrupt Clinton Foundation? A total witch hunt.
And the Clinton Foundation, by the way, is in the eye of the storm. We'll get to that at some point. But they are being looked at right now for their accounting practices.
Sure, and the president did 3 other tweets where he does talk about Rod Rosenstein, the conflicts of interest with Mr. Mueller, and whether or not they will look at the Clinton Foundation. Jason Chaffetz was with us about 45 minutes ago. These are some of the questions that he thinks the committees up on Capitol Hill should ask the former FBI director today behind closed doors.
Comey said there was an FBI, they didn't do sneaky things and they didn't do leaks. Yet we have an inspector general report that says they were doing a lot of sneaky stuff and they were doing a lot of leaking. So there'll be questions about that. You also have an FBI, the upper echelon, that's in chaos. How is it that Mr. Comey presided over one of the most inept FBI organizations in the history of the FBI? And why is it there was so much bias and animus that was going on there?
All right, today's a very important day for several reasons, because many say it could be this Mueller, this collusion investigation. The special counsel might be wrapping up their investigation based on what's going to happen. So today, James Comey, going behind closed doors, he's going to testify in front of the House Judiciary Committee. He tried to challenge that. He wanted to drop this. He wanted to speak out in public. But then the Republicans agreed to make the transcript public and said he could talk about it after they hear from him. There's some other things going on today, too, right,
Exactly.
Brian?
We're going to get 2 revealing court filings. They hopefully won't be so redacted we don't know what they mean, like in many cases happened with General Michael Flynn. But the Cohen sentencing, the government's going to recommend what kind of sentence Michael Cohen will have after he's been cooperating at least 70 hours, we understand, with the Mueller probe, among other things. And Paul Manafort, we're going to get details on what went wrong with his plea deal that caused the government to pull it back and say he's lying.
Well, and in particular regarding Mr. Manafort, pictured right there, it should spell out some of the lies. You know, if they cratered on his special deal with the prosecutors. Why exactly? And the tantalizing thing about Michael Cohen in the sentencing memo, officially he's going to be sentenced, I think, next Wednesday, but the sentencing memo should be revealing about what that man, who is a former personal attorney of the President of the United States, shared with investigators in the Russia case and also in the case in the Southern District here in New York, where he has admitted paying women who alleged that they had affairs with the man who is the President of the United States. So it's going to be a very newsy Friday in the legal world.
I think I speak for Democrats and Republicans when I say wrap it up.
Yeah.
Wrap this thing up.
May 2017, Brian.
Right.
It's been more than a year and a half.
Right. Over a 3-month period or a 4-month period when the president got the nomination.
Well, let's just get to the truth. Everybody wants the truth.
Right.
And whether it is through the Mueller investigation or Huber or Mr. Horowitz, who's the Inspector General, we need all the dots connected.
But I'm afraid that we'll have 3 separate truths. Although Huber, I'm not optimistic we'll get anything. Michael Horowitz might have a different conclusion than Robert Mueller, and then we're going to be sitting there debating the documents that we paid millions of dollars to research.
Well, then everybody would be skeptical. It's like, why'd we do that?
All right, let's talk about Tom Perez.
Why did we do that?
The DNC chairman, Tom Perez, he was speaking in Washington about the strategies for the Democratic Party, what they need to do in order to get more votes. And then he was talking about how you, the voter, you are influenced by Fox News and some other things, including what you hear on Sunday in church. Listen.
I had someone in northwestern Wisconsin tell me, you know what? For most of the people I know, their principal sources of information are Fox News, their NRA newsletter, and the pulpit on Sunday. And it should come as a surprise to no one that our message doesn't penetrate, because that person on the pulpit is saying, ignore everything else that this person has done and is doing. We have to focus on one issue of Roe versus Wade. And people buy it because that's their only source.
So there he is complaining about the fact that the voters are listening to Fox News, the NRA newsletter, and people there in the pulpit. That video was released on Twitter. I think on that same thread, one user said, well, my pastor's opinion has more weight than a politician's opinion. And somebody else wrote, frightened by the word of God or just a little worried by the competition, according to the Washington Times.
Isn't that a good companion piece with Senator Hirono saying a couple of days ago, the problem with Democrats is we're just too smart. We're not good at telling everyone how smart we are, or relaying a message which we idiots can understand.
Or the deplorable comment about middle America, or what they said about Walmart customers.
Well, you know if that's a preview of 2020, I don't think that's going to work. Yeah. Just saying.
Go back to Madison Avenue. All right. Meanwhile, a Fox News alert. President Trump is expected to announce Nikki Haley's replacement at any moment. And
he's also apparently close to filling an opening at the Department of Justice at the top to replace our Attorney General, Jeff Sessions.
Peter Doocy is live at the White House with who is under consideration. Hey, Peter.
Ainsley, the president is apparently looking to replace an attorney general he knew really well, Jeff Sessions, with somebody he does not know at all. That's William Barr, who has already been the attorney general for President George H.W. Bush back in the early 90s. And he stands out among former AGs because he shares President Trump's opinion about firing FBI directors, saying that he likes James Comey, but that ultimately the president should get to pick who runs the bureau. It is not clear if Barr has been offered that position yet, but White House officials have told us to be on the lookout for a tweet any minute now about a different opening. UN Ambassador Heather Nauert is set to become the president's pick to replace outgoing Nikki Haley. Nauert worked here at Fox before becoming spokesperson for Rex Tillerson and then Mike Pompeo. Her specialty at State has been explaining or defending the Trump administration's policies as opposed to shaping them. And it's not clear if an Ambassador Nauert would be serving in the cabinet level like Haley, but sources I've spoken to here say there are a lot of people at the White House who do not want this to be a cabinet level position anymore, following Haley's tenure where she sometimes broke with the president. Now, if Nauert and Barr both wind up being nominated, they will have to start preparing soon to become the first Trump nominees to face a Senate confirmation hearing since Brett Kavanaugh. Back to you.
And we know how that went. All right, Peter, thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter.
And of course, we all know Heather Nauert. She worked on this program for many years. We all like her a lot, so we wish her the best. Next stop, Confirmation.
And the thing that's great about Heather, it's 2 years in. So what she was able to do with Secretary of State Tillerson, who was shown the exit, and then in comes Mike Pompeo, clearly a better fit, was able to show that she was obviously able to show the president behind closed doors because of the access she got was impressive enough for her to be a leading candidate and now be the likely contender to be the next UN ambassador. Not a traditional way to go, but if you watch her in these press outings, when she's taking every question under the sun and answering with authority, and what she's already done in 2 years, I would, all these skeptics that seem to be lining up on the left about her, bring it on. When she goes in front of them for confirmation, she'll knock it out of the park like she has been for 2 years.
She's very bright. She's a good person. And we know Nikki Haley. She was governor of South Carolina, and she's stepping down. She said she's going to stay in that position until the end of the year. And then we'll find out, hopefully today, who that nominee is going to be. And it looks like it will be Heather Nauert.
And we do know after Heather will probably be Carly Shimkus, because Heather once had that job.
Oh, wow.
And Carly, you'll end up at the United Nations.
I guess the career trajectory might prove.
En route to the presidency.
All right, good morning, guys. And we begin with this. The search for missing Marines expanding off the coast of Japan. Rainstorms complicating rescue efforts after 2 American warplanes collided during a training exercise. 2 Marines have been recovered so far. One is in fair condition. The other is dead. Now on to a Fox News alert. Former Major League Baseball players Luis Valbuena and Jose Castillo killed in a car crash. The athletes traveling in Venezuela when their car hit a rock and swerved off the road. The driver, former infielder Carlos Rivera, survived the crash. Castillo played 5 seasons in the majors. Valbuena played 11 years, most recently with the Angels. The athletes were in Venezuela to play in a winter league. So sad. Senator Elizabeth Warren may be running for president in 2020, but her hometown newspaper is warning against it. The Boston Globe editorial board writing, quote, while Warren is an effective and impactful senator with an important voice nationally, she has become a divisive figure. A unifying voice is what the country needs now after the polarizing politics of Donald Trump. The Globe encouraged her to run in 2016. The board now says she missed her moment. And today marks 77 years since the surprising attack on Pearl Harbor. 2,403 service members and civilians killed in that horrific assault in Hawaii. Memorials will be held across the U.S. today, including a moment of silence at the Pearl Harbor Museum in Honolulu. American flags will be flown at half-staff until sundown. So, if you see a service member today, good day to say thank you, right?
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
December 7th, a day that will live in infamy, and still does. Thank you, Carly. All right.
All right, this caravan story sparking a new debate over birthright citizenship, a mother illegally entering the United States and having a baby on American soil. So what happens next?
Plus, on a different note, you know John Rich is a country megastar, and now he's joining the world of whiskey to help our heroes.
Are you drinking in that shot?
I do it for the company. He's here live in studio. That was my beat, Steve.
Bring up the whiskey, Johnny.
Within 24 hours of this caravan family illegally scaling the southern border, a 19-year-old Honduran mother gave birth on U.S. soil.
That's right. As the national debate over birthright citizenship escalates, what happens next to this family?
All right, let's bring in immigration attorney Linda Vega. First off, Linda, let's put birthright citizenship and that debate aside for a second. Just bring us through the process of what they will do now, because she's here illegally, the baby's born here.
Hi, good morning. Yes.
Morning.
What happens now is she will be processed either to determine whether she has a credible fear to remain in the United States for a political asylum claim, which is the only claim she has at this point. Now, it's discretionary with her deportation officer whether or not she's credible. If she's found not to be credible, she then goes before an immigration judge to determine whether she's credible to remain in the United States. But even if she's determined credible, that could take months or years until they possibly get to her case.
What if they say she's not credible? Does she have to go back to her country? What about her baby?
Well, if she's found not credible, then she has the option to argue that case before an immigration judge. And if the judge finds her not to be credible, she's deported at that point. Now, even though the baby's born on U.S. soil, it's a U.S. citizen, but the baby has to go back with her at that point.
Right.
Unless the baby becomes a ward of the state.
And of course, this could take a very long time, could take years, in fact. But Linda,
Yes.
according to the reporting by the Associated Press that we looked at yesterday, it said that she was happy. She felt that having a baby in the United States was a big reward for having made this long journey through Mexico from Honduras. But she also wanted to be reunited with her family in Columbus, Ohio. That is not a reason for asylum.
No, not at all. And that's a misconception a lot of these people have. They have a fear, but whether or not they can provide evidence for that fear, whether they're persecuted for a political group, social group, national origin, or religion, is very difficult for them because they come to the United States without any evidence at all. But because of the backlog in immigration court, they would be allowed to stay in the United States until their case is pending.
So she's got a plan, and this is the plan that's been executed over and over again. And when that child becomes, let's say, 14 or 15, he will have no problem coming to this country. If he's forced back to Central or South America, he'll have no problem getting back to this country because they'll say, oh, you're an American citizen, correct?
Correct, yes. And it won't be until he's 21 years old
21, okay.
where he can adjust his family. So it's a long way away, but
Through
nevertheless...
chain migration,
you know,
he can bring his family and make...
Correct. Through chain migration, he can apply for his mother, his father, his brothers and sisters.
And
correct.
of course,
that is correct.
Real briefly, if anybody doesn't, there are people who don't like this aspect of the immigration law. If you don't like it, you got to change the law because that's just the way it is right now.
Correct. That under immigration law, that is correct. You adjust your family if you're an American citizen or naturalized.
A lot of people
that
think
is,
that birthright
problematic.
citizenship is not being interpreted correctly. Are you one of them?
Well, birthright citizenship, I mean, it's very broad under the 14th Amendment and the first clause, and even in the Immigration Act, if you're born on U.S. soil and subject to the jurisdiction. Subject to the jurisdiction may mean you're born in an embassy, you're born on
Linda,
a
we'll
military base.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this again. Meanwhile, coming up next,
John Rich shares his own memory of the time that he sent the late president a very special birthday wish and the response that he got from 41. Take a listen.
Mr. President, this is John Rich wishing you a very happy 85th birthday. It wasn't for the good Lord.
John, this is George Bush. I'm very touched by it. I love your music, and I love this song particularly. So you're guaranteeing me a happy 85th birthday.
Nice.
So cool.
We know it happened because it was on television. Joining us right now to tell us is one half of the legendary country music duo, Big and Rich. It's Rich.
Good morning, fellas and ladies. Yeah, that was awesome.
Tell us about it. Tell us the backstory.
And what that song means.
Well, so the song is a song I wrote about my granddad, who was a World War II vet. He had 6 Purple Hearts. He was what they called a tunnel rat, little guy. They'd send him into the caves, you know. And so I wrote a song about him. But then, knowing that President Bush was also World War II and it was his 85th birthday, I missed singing it to him live, so I left it on his answering machine, and then he called me back, and I played phone tag and missed him. But I'm kind of glad I missed it because now I have it. You know what I mean?
Tape.
Otherwise, I'd be telling you're not going to believe George Bush. No, he didn't. But no, we have that, and you know, I just think it's the song honors World War II vets, the greatest generation.
Yeah.
It says if it wasn't for the greatest generation, then the ones still fighting for our nation, because of that, I've never had to kill for my way of life.
Yeah.
And when you walk into your house, to your left is your grandfather's uniform, right?
That's right. His World War II uniform's there. My other granddaddy fought in Germany, so you know, those guys literally saved the world. And now we got guys and girls out there fighting for the American dream. And we have a lot of respect for them in country music, and we write songs about them.
Why do you do so much for the troops?
Because without them, the American dream is dead. You know, I think we can talk about all the rights that we have, but the overarching thing is the American dream. You got the right in this country to go for it. And you guys are following your American dream. I'm following mine. Everybody out there watching has a shot. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but at least you got a shot to go for it.
And speaking of you got a shot, let's talk a little bit about this.
Wow, we brought a few extra bottles for you guys.
Okay, this is your this is your whiskey. It's
it is.
Redneck Riviera, named, what came first, the bourbon or the joint you've got down on Broadway in Nashville?
Well, so Redneck Riviera downtown in Nashville was being built, and I said, I've always been a Crown Royal drinker.
You have been.
Which is Canadian,
You had that
Canadian blend.
vest.
I do, Canadian blended whiskey, and I said, well, that's Canadian blended. Where's the American blended? And nobody really had anything called that, so I went to work on this in 17. It's now in 41 states. We give 10% of every bottle back to these guys, the Folds of Honor, which I know y'all support as well. We just wrote a check on behalf of Redneck Riviera Whiskey that covered 37 college grants with Folds of Honor.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I was there for the launch of this. They really a lot went into the making of this.
It did, yeah.
You're not just winging it.
No, and I don't endorse it. I own it. So, like, the glass is made in America. The cork is made in America. I mean, it's 100% American. It's the smoothest stuff out there. And I give back the Folds, which to me is the best of both worlds. It's just redneckriviera.com. You go to that, and there's a store locator. You put your zip code in. Boom. 41 states in 11 months. It's incredible.
I love the Get Down kit. And it's not
the Get Down
G-E-T,
kit.
it's G-I-T.
So that's a bottle of Redneck. That's a bottle of Redneck and 2 bags of jerky just for Christmas. This is at Costco. This is at Albertsons, Safeway. This is at all Winn-Dixie. This is all the grocery stores around America.
You know, and we've all been involved with Folds of Honor. And when you meet those college students, and you know you're helping them go to college.
Yeah.
Because they have lost one of their loved ones, one of their parents, or their parents are severely injured. How does that make you feel?
I met a girl yesterday. I didn't even know she was going to be there, who is now going to UCF, Central Florida, on a scholarship that was paid for by Redneck Riviera. I mean, they didn't tell me she was coming, and I just almost froze, and just the chills went up your arm. And you know, you hear about all these scholarships that they do, but when you meet somebody who's actually going through college through Folds of Honor, it's powerful.
It's not just a name, it's a person.
It's a person.
Look at the lives you've changed.
You should have seen her eyes when I'm talking to her, and her mother standing there, you know, and I said, to think that Redneck Riviera is putting you through college. I said, how old are you? She said 22. I said, thank God, you can drink some of this.
You know what, John? I wonder if it's the girl that was on our sofa recently, where the producers were telling us, yes, she had a dream to be an actress. She's now going to school in Central Florida. So you paid for her to go to school.
That's all.
She lost her dad.
That's right.
She loves her dad, was talking all about him, and now she is one of the Disney characters. So she's fulfilling her dream.
Yeah, so Redneck Riviera Whiskey is putting her through college through Folds of Honor.
Good.
It's so awesome. So I would say if you're out there in America and you want to go buy some of this, it's everywhere.
Right. You can also get your boots. There's a lot of stuff that he has. You are a conglomerate, a walking corporation.
Well, it's the American dream. Like I said, I'm an entrepreneur, and you asked about our vets and active duty. That's what they fight to preserve.
Indeed. If you'd like more information about Folds of Honor, go to foldsofhonor.org. John Rich, always a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
And if you're on...
That's for you.
Yeah, we've never seen that man before.
Who is that guy?
He's not even full-time. All right, and now he's gone. All right, thanks, John. Great to see you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
His name's John, too.
Hey.
Yeah.
He's not rich.
All right, a major Hollywood blockbuster, While You Were Sleeping, why Kevin Hart just stepped down as the Oscars host 2 days after he said yes to taking the job.
And did the arrest of a Chinese tech exec tank the stock market yesterday and ignite a new trade feud? We're live with new details coming up today after getting arrested at an airport in Canada.
All right, her name is Susan Lee, and she has to make sense of all this. Susan,
from Fox Business.
Yeah, from Fox Business. So, Susan, here we have a situation where we have a 90-day window to work out a trade truce with China.
Right.
At the same time, on Sunday, this arrest happens. Why should we care?
Well, it's a big deal. Did you see the market reaction yesterday? The Dow dropped 700 points because everyone's scared about what happens to this 90-day trade truce. So this is a big deal, and also it's a diplomatic big deal as well because it throws into question, yes, a trade deal, but let me explain to you what Huawei is. People are thinking, what is this company? It's one of China's largest technology companies. I would equate it to a Microsoft or a Dell, steady stream of income, doesn't make a lot of noise, not that flashy. Third largest mobile phone maker in the world. So the chief financial officer, she's the CFO of the company, but more importantly, she's the daughter of the founder of the company. And that's a big deal in China. Her name is Meng Wanzhou. She was arrested Saturday in Vancouver while she was changing planes. This was reportedly directed by the U.S. Justice Department, who
wanted to have Meng extradited to the U.S. on charges that may relate to breaking Iran sanctions. According to the New York Times, this is unauthorized sales of U.S. technology to Iran. Now, there's a bail hearing set for today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time in Vancouver. But this has really thrown that U.S.-China trade truce into question. And a sharp rebuke from China against this arrest, as you can imagine. Very short statement as well. They were questioning whether or not you can just arrest somebody without any distinct charges. So markets reacted badly to this. We were down 700 points before a dramatic final hour rally because the Fed may not be hiking interest rates as much next year. But this throws into questions also who knew what when. And the National Security Advisor, John Bolton, told NPR News that the Justice Department told him in advance that they were going to make this arrest. We did have Peter Navarro, the trade advisor, last night telling us that no one knew, apparently, before this arrest. The
president didn't know.
Especially the president definitely did not know about this before the G20 dinner or even in advance. But we did hear from the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, who says that he was given a few days heads up. And this is a Justice Department matter, not diplomatic.
Okay, so what did this company do wrong? Is this one of the outfits that's stealing American technology, or the fact that they were selling things to Iran?
Okay, well, I think in this particular case, there are questions whether or not they were shifting U.S. technology to Iran. Again, this is unconfirmed. This is coming from the New York Times. But we know Huawei has been in focus for many, many years, whether it's a conduit for Chinese spying, because their main business, selling mobile phones, which, by the way, is not allowed anymore on U.S. defense bases, but also they're a telecommunications equipment maker. So they install telecom equipment for a lot of the big phone companies.
Susan, Congressman Jim Banks of Indiana says this. This is a state-directed entity actively undermining America's national interest. China is trying to cheat its way to global dominance, and we cannot let it happen. And President Trump has basically said when he took over, be aggressive. This is not going to stand anymore.
Yeah.
He was aggressive in trade, but they're moving on two separate paths.
A very good point. Right? Exactly. So one hand, you're trying to sign a trade truce or a trade deal. On the other hand, you're trying to get tough with people that you think are undermining national security. That includes a Chinese company called Huawei.
And China's reaction?
As I said, a very sharp, short rebuke. You know, nothing I would say on the diplomatic front that I would say says anything about possibly questioning this China trade truce. But they talked about human rights and humans having rights in court cases.
That's fascinating for them to talk about human rights.
That's what a lot of people say.
This definitely affects Americans because of the stock market, and we saw what has happened as a result. But is there any other? Is our information being shared now with Iran through this company?
Again, we don't know anything specific. I don't want to make any guesses on that, but that's something obviously to be delved into.
Maybe we'll hear about it at the arraignment. All right, Susan, thank you very much.
How do you think the market will react real quick, Susan?
I think we're pricing a small recovery today. Global stock markets could come back a little bit.
Because of interest rates?
Yes, that's all because of interest rates.
All right, we're going to hold you to that. We're taping this segment.
All right. Meanwhile, great interest in the headlines, and Carly's got those right now.
That's right. Good morning to you and everyone at home. If you are just waking up, Kevin Hart's gig as Oscars host is over 2 days after taking the job. The comedian bowing out overnight after his controversial tweets about gay people resurfaced. Hart says the Academy gave him 2 options: apologize or step down. Hart tweeting in part, quote, "I'm sorry that I hurt people. I am evolving and want to continue to do so. My goal is to bring people together, not tear us apart." 9 new cases of E. coli linked to romaine lettuce just announced. The CDC renewing its warning not to eat romaine if it comes from northern or central California, or if the source is unknown. At least 52 people in 15 states have gotten sick, most of the cases reportedly in New Jersey and California. And a deputy teams up with a Good Samaritan to rescue a man trapped inside a burning truck. Watch this.
Is the dash holding your leg in? Okay. Man, please help me.
Wow, the Texas deputy helping free the man's leg stuck under the dashboard. Bystanders pulling him to safety. The driver was airlifted to the hospital with serious injuries. And this may be the shot of the morning. Santa Claus gets down on one knee to thank a veteran for his service. He says it's important to recognize heroes like 93-year-old Bob Smiley.
We owe a debt of gratitude to men like this that have made such a life-changing decision to give up themselves, be willing to lay down their life even for other people.
That is a very good Santa Claus right there. He met the World War II veteran at a mall in Delaware. We can bet Bob Smiley is absolutely on the nice list this year. And those are your headlines.
The greatest generation.
That was cool of Santa.
Isn't that neat?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Terrific.
All right, turning now to some extreme weather. A powerful winter storm has millions in its path. Heavy rain and intense flooding pounding Southern California.
Meanwhile, a Southwest Airlines jet skidded off a wet runway at Hollywood's Burbank Airport. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Look at that.
Janice Dean has the forecast as the storm moves east. Hey, Janice.
Hello. Well, let's talk about the weather, and then I'm going to introduce you to some of my friends. Let's go to the maps first. We have that potential winter storm that's going to affect areas across the south, starting in the southwest, moving across the southern plains, the central U.S. This is going to be a big one, not only for heavy rain and flooding across Texas and Louisiana, but we're going to see the potential for ice. And depending on where that 32-degree line is, that freezing line, that's where we're going to see the difference between the freezing rain and the sleet and the snow. So just keep that in mind. We're going to see some travel delays. Even if the storm is not impacting you, it's going to affect much of the country. So we will be keeping you up to date throughout the day today and this weekend. All right, come over here. We've got a Sweet 16 over here. Wave, my love. Happy Sweet 16. We got Mississippi and New York here. Mississippi, any birthdays? North Carolina, birthdays? 50, girlfriend. Any anniversaries? All right, and we love Fox and Friends. Where's your anniversary right over here?
30 years.
Yay, 30 years. What's the secret?
I don't know. Just
He's
put God first.
Oh, God first. I love, and Fox and Friends, right?
That's right.
All right. Keeping marriage happy across the country. All right, back inside, everybody.
Great.
Yay!
Very nice.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
It's hard for Janice to outdo yesterday. If you missed it, there was a live proposal in the 8 o'clock hour.
I know.
Those weren't actors. Those were real people, right?
They were. Oh. Congratulations.
Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren took a DNA test to prove she's Native American, but those results may be coming back to haunt her. Ed Henry here to explain.
Plus, one Fox and Friends viewer got the surprise of a lifetime, a video call from Steve.
Yep.
How would you like to make a trip to New York City because you're one of the winners at our contest?
It would be such an honor and incredible. I would love it.
Well, that lucky winner is making her happy recipe inspired by Steve's cookbook. Coming up.
She's making a happy cake.
I'm Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. With disgraced FBI Director Jim Comey set to testify on the Hill tomorrow, there are specific questions that need to be asked and answered. Namely, why did Hillary aides Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedin likely get away with lying to the FBI while Trump associates are prosecuted? Byron York has some answers. And while the resistance cheers, the Mueller probe may have inadvertently ensnared former Clinton and Obama aides. Professor Jonathan Turley will tell us why this is another sign that Mueller has overstepped his bounds. Plus, we're led to believe that everything the government tells us about climate science is true. But what if those reports are being funded by billionaire activists? The man who investigated the latest climate report is here to tell us what's going on. Herman Cain and Raymond Arroyo are here as well. But first, the attack of the liberal killjoys. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Liberals are now trying to tell us how to feel, how to celebrate, and if you can believe it, even how to pray during the holidays. A few decades back, well, they fought really hard against the campaign by Tipper Gore. Remember when she was lobbying for warning labels on music that had explicit content in the lyrics? And let's face it, whenever parents, for instance, raise concerns about music industry's gross, explicit lyrics or over-sexualized scenes on TV, well, liberals responded with, oh, just change the channel. But today, they have a current case of amnesia because they're now the new censors. And the offending content? Christmas songs.
The character in the song is saying no, and they're saying, well, does no really mean yes? And I think in 2018, what we know is consent is yes.
Did you see in that video how she tries to leave and he grabs her arm and then she looks at her arm and then he closes the thing and says you can't leave? I mean, that part is somewhat coercive. I mean, I have to say it's making me rethink.
This song?
Yeah, it is making me rethink it.
I'm rethinking a lot of things, too, after watching Nora's comment there. All right, baby, it's really cold outside. Well, notice how the left, they don't want to place any limits on what is truly objectionable content. You know, hip-hop, rap, some of the worst stuff, which routinely objectifies women, demonizes law enforcement, and celebrates things called murder. But instead, they seek to put the darkest spin on part of our American musical tradition. The left has no problem with performances like these. But Baby, It's Cold Outside is a national disgrace. Thankfully, not everyone is thrilled, though, about where the politically correct crowd is taking us.
Not me.
I'm going to go back and... Okay.
No, so I mean, so we just have to agree to disagree. I just think that it's a light, flirtatious song, and she clearly doesn't seem to be so upset. Keep looking at the whole darn song before you make a decision. I'm so irritated by that.
So I might guess.
People, sit down. We are losing our sense of humor nowadays.
Bingo, Gayle King. Now, even Christmas specials, we used to look forward to them every year. They only played once a year, and it made them even more special. Even those specials aren't safe from the liberal blacklist. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer has been singled out by the Huffington Post as seriously problematic. Have they watched TV recently? People are being sexually assaulted and brutalized 24/7, HuffPo. But a 54-year-old claymation reindeer sends them all to the crying room? Well, actually, scenes like this are quite harrowing.
From now on, gang, we won't let Rudolph join in any reindeer games, right?
I love the little whistle around his neck. Well, sorry, but I think I have to take a moment here. I think just seeing that scene may have triggered my PRSD, post-Rudolph stress disorder.
All right, son, try it on.
I don't wanna. Daddy, I don't like it.
You'll like it and wear it. Now, there's one thing I want to make very plain. No doe of mine is going to be seen with a red-nosed reindeer.
Summon the grief counselors. Oh, and by the way, they say it's sexist because Rudolph's dad, of course, you see, tells his wife that the search for their son is man's work. So she can't go out in the cold. He'll go find Rudolph. You stay here on the home front, honey. Now, this is a beloved Christmas special and the longest continuously running one as well. But do you see what liberals seek to do? They're trying to disrupt and destroy traditions and replace them with their own version of some transitory nonsense. By seeing dark forces and even an innocent Christmas special, they divide us with the goal of ripping away yet another little innocuous thing that families have enjoyed for more than a half a century. But nothing fun and traditional is off limit, or I'd say for any of these censorious liberals. Years ago, they started complaining that Charlie Brown, that Christmas special, was offensive too, because it was too Christian.
The angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord.
I still cry when I see that. Never could be made today. By the way, any day I'm expecting that PETA is going to lodge a complaint about Dr. Seuss's The Grinch. After all, that green guy with the attitude didn't treat Max the dog very well. Now, the left are the worst types of moralists because they claim not to be. They talk about tolerance and diversity and being your authentic self. I'm going to speak my truth. But what they really want is for you to bow down and worship at their altar of self-righteous political correctness. They want to control what you watch, what you eat, what you hear, and yes, how you speak. And even, as we saw during the Bush 41 funeral yesterday, how you pray.
I just point out that at this moment, the Apostles' Creed being recited, President Trump and the First Lady not reading. Was that, everyone had the thing in their head, but they're not. What was that about, Sally?
Well, it's odd because, he is this supposed religious person who has a spiritual advisor, Paula White, and he had them speak at, pray at his inauguration, and he has all these evangelicals around. So I thought that was bizarre that he didn't even try to read it.
First of all, Trump is considered a very religious person. I don't know what she's reading. But Sally Quinn, who is a journalist, who in her memoir described hexing 3 people, 2 of whom died. And she's going to demand that Trump recite a religious creed at a public ceremony or judge him? That's no judgment. But again, this is the problem with the left. Depending on the politics of the moment, they go from being libertines to Puritans. The once aggressive seculars suddenly become religious enforcers. And these are the same people who, by the way, applauded when prayer was driven out of the public schools and who cheered when manger scenes were pulled from the public square. Forever crowing about how we need separation of church and state, a phrase found nowhere in any of our founding documents. My friend, today's left is blissfully unaware of how much they've become caricatures of what they accuse conservatives of being. They claim to be tolerant. They're among the most rigid, intolerant people on the planet. They claim to be pro-choice. That only applies to abortion, maybe your gender. They claim to be for creative expression, but they're control freaks and monoliths. They claim they really what they want